Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, in 2 days, we have covered many topics on cementation, oil and gas well cementation. Now, this is the last one. So, I'll be telling about various design aspects of cement slurry. So, in the commonly used cement in these things, we use Portland cement in oil and gas well. And this 9 types of API cements are available. Most common are A, C, G, and H. Worldwide, for different depths, G and H are used. In India, actually, I mentioned this is actually class G is used. And we use HSR. HSR means high sulfate resistance. Why do we use sulfate resistant? Because see, when we drill the well, there in the formation water, sulfate ions are present. And when these sulfate ions actually react with the cement, normal cement, then actually it forms a crystal which actually grows in size. So that may develop crack in the set cement. So to prevent that, HSR is used. For HSR, the one composition that is tricalcium aluminate that is present in this thing, the maximum percentage should be 3%. It should be up to less than 3%. That is the requirement to be HSR. Okay. So generally HSR cements are used to take care of sulfate ion attack on cement. Now, when we design the cement slurry, the inputs are required are primary job, whether it is casing or this liner, and bottom hole circulating temperature is very important. I told earlier also, bottom hole circulating temperature is why it is important, because at this temperature, we design the cement slurries. And why BHSC is important? BHSC is important to calculate the strength at that temperature. Okay. So there's a difference. Remember this BHST and BHCT. So we should know BHST first, and then we can simulate BHCT by knowing the thermal temperature gradient. Then using this. Nowadays, actually, we are using different programs like Halliburton Landmark software is available. We put a lot of data, mud details, casing details, circulation data, all this actually temperature of the mud, properties of the mud. Then we can actually simulate the bottom hole circulating temperature, which is slightly different than that obtained from using API tables. That is more accurate. Or sometimes actually the static temperature is recorded in when we record the logs. Then if logs are not available, then we simulate we actually extrapolate the temperature using GTO. Okay, then mud density is also very important. Well depth, diameter, casing size, expected BHP. BHP is bottom hole pressure. So we know what mud weight we are using. So normal BHP we can calculate, the TBD we know, and where we want to carry out the cementation. That is for the mud. And then BHP will be different when we actually slurry is raised into the annulus, then that pressure will be slightly higher. So for ECD calculation, etc., we should know when while displacing the cement slurry, what will be the maximum pressure. So at that pressure, we actually design the cement slurry. So samples of cement, because laboratories design and they use a lot of equipment for designing the cement slurry. Consistometers are used, settling tubes are used, okay, curing temperatures, curing chambers are used for this thing under bottom hole conditions, to know the compressive strength of the set cement. So we use a lot of, I will not go into the details. You can check the chemistry part where how to test the cement slurries. It is actually covered as per API 10B standard. So you can, if you have API standard 10B, you can see how the testing is done. So all this actually information is required for this cement slurry design. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. I have one doubt that when the cement slurry is circulating, that time also because of the friction, there is a rise in the temperature. So that temperature rise in the temperature is negligible, or that also you are considering designing the cement slurry?
See, let me tell you. First of all, reaction of cement slurry is an exothermic process. When you are actually pumping, mixing it, the friction losses in the drill pipe will not give rise to any rise in temperature. Okay, it is negligible. It is negligible. Okay, but it is coming in contact.
Okay.
You are pumping spacers, and the spacers are room temperature, and you thoroughly circulate it, the temperature goes down. That is actually another purpose of circulating the well thoroughly before this thing. Not only well cleaning, only it actually lowers the temperature also. Okay, so that frictional that rise in temperature due to friction is negligible. Maybe it may be of the order 0.1 degree centigrade, 0.2 degree centigrade. There cannot be much this thing, and there are so many factors. That way, how many solids are present? What is the heat transfer that is taking place? The thermal conductivity of the mud or the casing or the pipes you are using. So if you start taking those actually consideration, it will become very complex and you will not be able to design correctly. Okay. So that is actually
okay, sir. Okay.
It is ignored. So actually, what are the design considerations? Well geometry. Okay. Why well geometry? Suppose the holes are sloughed, then volume will increase. And then, okay, suppose hole is sloughed and we are pumping cement slurry, that also affect the temperature because when excessive caving is there, the distance between the formation and this casing is actually more. So there also that localized area that will also be affected. So, and for centralization of the pipe, we decide number of centralizers to be fitted on the casing so that actually we can get a reasonably good standoff for good displacement. I'll illustrate in my upcoming slides. So mud weight is also very important because density hierarchy has to be maintained. So cement slurry weight should be the first, if you are using spacer, the spacer, all the properties of spacer should be more than that of mud and all the properties like frictional hierarchy and density hierarchy. The density as well as other yield point, etc., other gels and PV should be more than those of spacer. So that hierarchy has to be maintained. And how much column of rise is required, that also will determine the volume of cement slurry, and that accordingly the time will also be extended. If you are pumping large volume of cement slurry, then you should know at what rate you are pumping, how much time it will take. So according to that, you will change the thickening time. Okay. So downhole static and circulating temperature for TT and compressive. TT means thickening time and CS is compressive time. Thickening time is the time as long as you can displace it. Some actually countries, they consider 70 BC. BC is the unit of consistency, border unit of consistency. And some countries actually, in India, we consider 100 BC. Whereas when you design a cement slurry, there is hardly any time gap between 70 and 100 BC. Within few, maybe few minutes, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, actually you attain 70 and then 100. Okay. So, and then specific conditions like require fluid loss control. Suppose you have formations which are actually permeable. And if you lose the excessive water loss or fluid loss is more, or you are carrying out the squeeze job or liner job where pressures are very high, the chances of water, some water will go into the formation. Okay, that if it is more, then there can be during the pumping of the cement slurry or the displacement of the cement, when it will enter into the annulus, the excessive water may lose to the formation and the slurry may become thicker. You will not be able to displace. So that's called bridging. Bridging can be caused if excessive water is lost. So we need to control the fluid loss. So there is also API specifies that actually we measure standard API like mud system. Also we measure this thing. We take in 30 minutes at 1000 psi of a particular sieve size. 30 minutes we collect the water or the fluid loss. Then we actually measure it in 30 minutes. That volume by volume it is measured. So now operational consideration. Okay. So cement slurry design, quality control of the cement slurry, design of suitable chemical washing spaces. We add so many additives. So actually it depends on the case to case basis. What mud system we are using. Say for example, I tell you if I am using oil-based mud, a synthetic oil-based mud system, then I need to have what, because that oil is present in the mud. that oil cake has to be filmed, has to be removed completely. Otherwise, the bonding will not be there. Proper bonding will not be there between cement and the casing and the cement and the formation. To remove that, what we add? We add surfactant into the spacers. So some F0103 and many other companies actually manufacture this surfactant. So that actually depends on what washes are required. So that washes actually depend on the whole condition. Suppose I am lot of this limestone is there and it's a cake. So I need to use some washes, SAP solution. SAP is sodium acid pyrophosphate. There are a number of this thing, depending it is actually unique. And case to case basis, the requirement actually use this, and weighted spacer also used. Okay, then we add some weighting agents because I need to have a spatial density more than that of the mud. So I add barite and some other weighing additive. Suppose my spacer density is of the order of 2.2. I will not be able to, just by mixing barite, I will not be able to make it. In that case, I will have to add much heavier additives like Micromax or hematite, like in the spacer. Then density and rheological hierarchy I have already mentioned. Optimal discharge rate. Why? Because I told yesterday also that displacement as far as possible should be done in turbulent flow. So that you can remove the entire mud and mud cake on the LS. Okay. And if it is, say, turbulence is not possible, try to then maximize the centralization. That is actually minimum 70% standoff. API also says 70% standoff. 100%, because nowadays most of the wells are inclined, 100% centralization is not possible, because you will be required to have so many centralizers, you will not be able to run in the casing, because those centralizers give a restoring force to the casing. So when you run down, because of the restoring force, some starting force is required. So, okay, you need to push it. So the weight of the casing in the beginning may not be enough to put down, run the casing down into the hole. So only optimum number of centralizers have to be put. Preferably the standoff should be 70%. In gas tight slurries, water gas, I will explain later. In gas tight slurries, some certain properties are required. So static gel strength, I will mention about this thing later. Okay, it's and strict adherence to standard practice. Okay. Spacers actually volume is actually designed, how much volume is to be pumped. Compatibility of spacer has to be checked, because the mud has different chemicals and it has different properties. The spacer is put to separate the mud with the cement and mud and cement. There's a in between fluid is there. So the spacer should be compatible with mud as well as cement slurry also. The compatibility has to be checked. We add 25% if contamination is there. Otherwise, maybe excessive gelation may be there, or maybe settling may be there, or some reaction may take place with the cement slurry. The cement slurry may flash set, suddenly it may set. So we have to check the property, this compatibility. Okay. And as far as possible, this actually viscosities also of the spacer should also be checked. And if it is a weighted spacer, then settlement, stability should also be checked. Okay, stability of the spacer. I'll show in one of my slides. And the flow rate, as I've mentioned, if they say this table demonstrates actually if I am pumping at a faster rate, here I am pumping 1 cubic meter, only displacement efficiency, only 48% of the mud will be removed. If I am pumping at 7 cubic meter per minute, then it is 98%. So it depends on many other factors. And I am not supposed see this figure. It depicts this actually if you are, especially this is applicable in high angle wells and the stability is not there. The bottom slurry, okay, bottom slurry or the spacer will be of higher density than this. If you keep it say to the original slurry density is 2.35. But what is that? Because of settling, the top slurry is 2.31, middle one is 2.34 and 2.36 is the bottom one. That is it is depicted. See, it is high, darker green, this thing is showing bottom. Say in the inclined well. So what will happen? The strength, you will not get good strength on the top portion of the inclined well. Okay. So we have to check the stability, and this actually happens predominantly in HPST wells, because in HPST wells, as the temperature increases, the yield point of it happens in the mud also. So we have to check the stability at the bottom hole conditions of temperature and pressure. So in the bottom hole conditions, we have to check the stability. That's very important. So because at the ST, high temperature, the yield point goes down and the solids actually tend to settle. And HPST well, as such, there are a lot of heavyweight additives in the cement also we add, because the pressure is high. So we need to maintain the specific gravity. For that, we add hematite or some other micromax or ilmenite or silica fluor is also added. So all these are heavy materials. So these heavy materials actually tend to settle when the yield point, the suspending actually capacity of the mud goes down, and the gels also are very important, gel 0 and gel 10. When actually it becomes static, so it should not settle. So this conveys that you see conventional cement slurry, we have different cement particles, gray particles are there, these are gray particles, and this is the matrix, and this is fluid. Fluid means mixed water. Okay. So what we add actually sometime nowadays, this particle size distribution with different size of particles are added. In ONGC, we are using silica fumes just to actually, this gives, because solid fractions increases, the solid fraction increases because there are more solids if you are using different size of particles. You see red one is the biggest one, this is smaller. So interparticle spaces are filled with the different size particles. So the solid fraction increases, and you get good strength. Strength also increases. And this also prevents in gas migration and the fluid migration. Okay. And it improves the mechanical properties. So this is actually now widely used worldwide. Perhaps it was introduced first by Schlumberger, and now it is being used. This technology is being used everywhere. And ONGC also, we use widely this technology. Okay, this is actually challenges in HPST. Some I have already mentioned the temperature effect. Temperature is very high because I told you the thermal thinning leads to decreasing rheology of the slurry. Strength retrogression. In cement, we have a particular, I mentioned yesterday also, when the temperature exceeds 110 degrees centigrade, one phenomena occurs that is called strength retrogression. With time, slowly with time, at above 110 degrees centigrade. For that, we need to add silica. In all wells where static temperature is more than 110 degrees centigrade, we have to add 30 to 35% silica floor. Okay, that has to be added to prevent strength retrogression. High sensitivity and temperature retarders. This is very important in HPST wells. Why? Because actually high temperature retarders, which we use, retarders are required because at higher more is the temperature, the thickening time gets reduced. So for higher temperatures, actually we use retarders. So those retarders are very temperature and dose sensitive. So we have to carry out, when we design the cement slurry, the dose sensitivity has to be also checked. Suppose in macro level, when you are carrying out the job in field, we cannot be precise. In laboratory, we can conduct the test by, suppose the dose is 0.2. So we have to test what will be the effect on cement slurry if the dose becomes, instead of 0.2, 0.25, or it becomes less. So what will be the effect on thickening time? Sometimes actually these retarders are very temperature sensitive and dose sensitive. So we have to do temperature sensitivity, means suppose I am designing the cement slurry at 150 degrees centigrade circulating temperature. So I need to check what will be the effect if the temperature is not correct and instead of 150 it is 155 or it is 145. What will be the effect on thickening time? So the temperature sensitivity as well as dose sensitivity, that is very important. These two sensitivity tests have to be conducted, especially for HPST wells. And generally HPST wells, there is a narrow margin because you are drilling deep. The narrow margin between the pore pressure and the fracture gradient. And this phenomena is also occurring in deep waters. In deep water, the first casing, the conductor casing cementation is more crucial than this because all the weight, BOP, everything lies on this. And the temperature is also low. Okay, temperature is of the order for 4, 5 degrees, 6 degrees. So we have to design, and for offshore, time is also very important. So we add accelerators or particle packaging, lightweight cements are used. Okay, then this is high ECD because weight is more and the depth is more, ECD will be more. So gas migration, high pressure, this thing, water influx, these are another phenomena that we need to get. Temperature varies. What happens? This is point number 5, you note. Temperature varies because the column, in the column, suppose I am taking a rise of 1000 meter casing in the production casing. So the top of the cement, which will be exposed to against the formation, which is at lower temperature. So the temperature difference is also important. The slurry which is at the top will be subjected to much less temperature. The bottom hole slurry, the principle says that for good cementation, the bottom slurry should set first and the top slurry should maybe a little later. So if there is a difference between the temperature difference, so how will I design this temperature? So there should be a this design should be this thing. We need to optimize for taking into. And then operational cycles. Suppose in deep wells, what normally does actually, because of temperature and pressures, the cyclical stresses, we pressurize the well, depressurize the well, or sometimes actually we carry out the formation fracturing is done to take the production in, especially in shale gas and shale oil wells. We need to hydrofrac the well. When you hydrofrac, is excessive pressure is applied. Okay, so that actually creates additional stresses on the casing, and that actually stresses are transferred onto the cement seed. So that is also, and another thing very important is reliability of the logging data. So because why actually we are concerned for the volume, caliper log, and the temperature, which is very important. So the reliability with the very high temperature, the tools, logging tools actually do not function properly, and we may not get the accurate bottom hole static temperature. So that is actually that these are the constraints in HP challenges in HPST wells. So spacer design, I have already told, density, compatibility, rheological hierarchy, and thermal stability. These are the 4 factors for designing the spacer, which we need to consider. This is actually a typical consistency graph I am showing here. Okay, this is this green line. It is a consistency curve. This is actually this red line is temperature. This red line is temperature, and this is a blue line is pressure. Okay, so I need to design the cement slurry. So this is actually done. This is in consistometer. This graph is automatically plotted. So actually CT, in ONGC, we have a CT, this consistometer. Okay, now you can see I start from here. So it is slightly this higher. I'm slowly, because depending upon the time, actually it is mentioned, time to raise the temperature and pressure, because the slurry will take some time. Okay, if I'm mixing the slurry in the batch mixture, it will be more. I'll have to add the batch mix time also. Maybe half an hour I may take in batch mixing. Or suppose I'm doing fly mix, the slurry, then it will be pumped immediately, mixing and pumping immediately, and the rise of temperature will be earlier. So suppose in, say, maybe 45 minutes or 1 hour or 30 minutes, whatever this thing is time. So we raise the temperature and pressure after this thing. And you see the consistency is dropping. Because I told you, when the actually temperature increases, the initial consistency here is 25, or maybe slightly less than, yes, it is 10, slightly less than 10, 8. Now it is dropping. Why it is dropping? Because when the temperature increases, there's actually the fluid yield point actually reduces. Consistency is nothing but sort of actually it is yield point only of the cement slurry. Okay, so it is coming down. Now it becomes stable. It remains, it is pumpable, and see up to this depth. Now you see the curve, slight curve. Now it has a starting. So this actually we call right angle slurry. The ideal slurry is immediately it should be pumpable here, and suddenly it should shoot. So within no time, this is called transition time. This is transition time. This time, you see, when it becomes, this is 70. We have stopped 70 BC. So this is called transition time. Okay. So it should be minimum. Slurry should be liquid and suddenly it should set. The transition time is reduced when you are using particle packaging, this thing, and number of additives, not of all additives are added to have this actually design. So best is this. If you have this curvature like this, it is not a good design because transition time is much more. Suppose here it starts raising and it becomes a curve like this. We have actually, that is bad design. It's not a good design. Okay. So while designing this, we need to consider all these aspects. Now, right angle, I've already mentioned, it should be right angle, slurry sensitivity. I have already covered the settling stability. Now, actually, I could not raise the slides. I was just preparing this. Now, centralization, that is very, very important. So I have already told minimum standoff should be 70%. Okay. And then spacing is also done, centralizer spacing, depending upon the well profile. In horizontal section, the centralized number of centralizers to be fitted will be more because weight of the casing will be downwards in high angle wells. I'll show this. Okay. Now this, while executing the job, we are actually, standoff is very less. Here you can see this portion, it is almost touching. Though I have shown it as a vertical, it may be inclined well also. In the inclined well, this will be touching. Okay. So here you will not be able to remove the mud or the mud cake. So most of the cement slurry that will be passing through this, we will get a good cement here, but here it will not be there. So what we do, we actually rotate or reciprocate the casing. When you reciprocate the casing, so the centralizer say it is here, it will try to come, when it will be passing through this, it will disturb it. So it will be changing, okay. 100% standoff, it will be all round it will be displaced properly, but it is say 20% means this portion where it is closer to the wellbore, we will not be able to displace. So if you rotation is the best thing. But if you are not able to rotate the string, then you actually reciprocate at least by 3 to 5 meters, so that actually this gets disturbed, and this point, the minimum distance, that also will get disturbed, and you will be able to displace mud thoroughly if you are reciprocating. See, rotation is better. See, this is actually gel mud, which is shown in orange color. This is gel mud. And when you rotate, rotation is better, of course. But in casings, if you are using BTC thread or the centralized conventional centralizers you are using, you will not be able to rotate. Okay. So if you do rotation as well as reciprocation, that is the best. That is the ideal thing. But if you are not able to rotate, at least reciprocate. At least reciprocate. You know, when you are reciprocating the casing and when you are pumping the fluid inside, when you are coming up, the sump below the shoe is created. Okay, so the annular velocity, net annular velocity gets reduced. But when you are going down, the same mud gets displaced into the annulus and the annular velocity increases. So that also has an additional rubbing off effect in the annulus. So to remove the mud. Okay. So I have already covered this. For good displacement efficiency, ideally all parameters should be this thing, and contamination to achieve pre-flush and properly designed spacers to be used instead of this. Okay. But in case, remember, in case the ECD has to be checked, there are programs available. This manually also you can calculate and check how much ECD, expected ECD will be. Maximum ECD should never exceed the formation fracture gradient, and it should always exceed the pore pressure. That has to be kept in between. Yesterday I showed you this also slide. Okay. So these are actually, when you carry out the test, we actually by using consistometer, thickening time is measured. Then strength development, UCA is available, ultrasonic imaging, ultrasonic analyzer is there, cement analyzer is there, ultrasonic cement analyzer. With the help of that is non-destructive testing. Or otherwise conventional cubes also we can make, and that cubes can be kept in curing temperature at the bottom hole static conditions, and then we can carry out the destructive testing. We can press the test using a machine, and then we can know what is the strength, compressive strength of this. And fluid loss rate, that is also measured. I have already told, equipment is there. So 30-minute fluid loss is measured. Rheology is very important. Your yield point and everything that has to be measured. And the free water I mentioned in my first class. Free water is the water that actually separates from the cement slurry. When you keep it for some time, maybe free water will be there. 1.4% is normal slurry is permissible, 1.4%. But in horizontal wells, in inclined wells, if the free water, I'll come back to my original slide. If this high angle wells, if fluid loss is water separation, or water separation is more, then what will happen? The slurry will set here, on top section, water will be there, even if it is 1.4%. So that will actually not prevent interzonal migration of fluids. So there should be in high angle wells or in squeeze wells, the fluid loss should be minimum, and there should be no water separation. Free water separation and free water is the same thing. So there should be nil water separation. Okay. So this is actually how it is useful.
So, sir, I have a question.
Yeah. Please.
So what's the minimum value for the free water? Should it be 0 or?
See, ideally, I told you it should be 0. For all critical wells, it should be 0.
Okay, sir.
API permit for normal wells, it can be 1.4% after treatment. But if you mix the slurry, the neat cement, normal cement, if you check this thing, it will be of the order of 5% in Class G cement.
Okay.
Okay. But when you are adding some additives like it will get reduced. So this free water or water separation should be 0.
Okay.
SPST wells. Okay, as I explained you now, if the inclined well there is some free water is there, so on top of the free water will be there, even it is 1.4%, top layer will be water. So you will get this thing, you will not get zonal isolation. Gas or oil can pass through that. So our basic purpose of cementation is defeated. You got it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So now, see this is actually, this slide shows how actually your bottom hole conditions, temperature and pressure affect the thickening time. Okay. This, say, if the pressure is more, pressure has actually little effect on thickening time. So this is the thickening time on the x-axis. On y-axis, it is a bottom hole circulating temperature, BSCT. Okay. So if actually you see, if the temperature increases, the thickening time reduces. If the temperature increases, thickening time reduces. And with the pressure also reduces, but effect of the pressure is less. This is actually, see, this is another graph showing this slurry design consideration. See, when actually I require this you see, slurry consistency, this, okay, this is batch mix time. So suppose I calculate, I know what volume of the slurry is to be pumped, then that volume has to be prepared as surface. If I'm doing fly mix, immediately I'll be pumping. So it's starting from 0. Okay. So it is actually job taken time is the estimated time is this much, say 3 hours is required. Then 1 hour safety is I add. So the thickening time should be, okay, 4 hours minimum. Okay. Minimum. It should be 4 hours. But if you have excessively, suppose I require thickening time, my job, total time taken by in the job is say 3 hours. And I design the cement slurry which has thickening time of 6 hours or 7 hours. It is a bad design because the slurry will remain in the liquid form. And as long as it remains in the liquid form in the endless, the maximum migration of water into the cement slurry and gas, oil, that all actually takes place during that time also. And the transition time should be minimum. That is why I mentioned the right angle slurry set. Okay. This is the time to raise when temperature is raised, temperature and pressure. Okay. And this here, you see, because this is a batch mix time I considered, it's 1 hour is batch mix time and 3 hours is there and 1 hour. So if when you are using batch mixer, then time to raise temperature in the consistometer will be batch mix time plus when it goes up to the bottom. You got it? 30 minutes plus this 1 hour. So 1 hour, after 1 hour, 30 minutes, I will raise the temperature and pressure. Okay. So this is actually how designing of cement slurry is done. Okay, this is free water. I have already mentioned. Should be less than 1.4. Maximum is 1.4%. But for liner jobs, critical job, horizontal deviated weight, this actually water separation or the free water should be 0. The fluid loss also. Similarly, when are you for squeeze jobs, liner job, where pressures expected are more, because when the pressure increase, then the fluid loss will be more from the slurry. Whereas we are measuring because we have to keep this constant. We are measuring the fluid loss in the laboratory at 1000 psi, but it is only for the reference purpose. But actually the pressures are much higher. So because reference, we have to keep standard. So the sieve size is also standard, and time is also standard, 30 minutes. Per 30 minutes, how much actually volume is collected. So in the casing, this casing design, it may be of the order of 250 to 300 ml per 30 minutes. It can be of that order. Doesn't matter. Unless there are very permeable zones, then we can reduce it. But for liner cementation, because in liner, the pressures expected are more, because of constriction of liner, the annular space is less. So pressures are more and liners are deep. So we actually try to keep 50 ml per 30 minutes. And for prevention of gas channeling, it should also be minimum. Okay, fluid loss should be minimum, and we have to measure the static gel strength. Nowadays, actually, static gel strength analyzers are available, wherein actually the theory is that when the cement is placed, they should develop a high gel strength. That gel strength actually prevents gas migration. It should have within 45 minutes, the gel strength should be attained 500 pounds per 100 square feet. That should be the value. Okay. So when we, for especially gas wells, we actually test for static gel strength also, static gel strength, development of a static gel strength. So I have also mentioned all fluid loss determination must be made at the bottom hole circulating temperature, except for preventing gas channeling, which is conducted at bottom hole static temperature. Remember, this is a very important point. Okay. That rheology of the this thing, rheology of the has to be measured, all yield point, everything. Okay, K dash, N dash, these are actually part as should be measured as per API standard 10B. If you get a copy of this, not API 10B, you go through it. All the testing procedures are mentioned in this. Okay, placement mechanics. Okay, I've already covered this flow regime. Flow regime is, I've told you, preferably it should be done in turbulent flow. Casing reciprocation. Contact time is actually this very old convention. Contact time. If you have more contact time, it is likely that your cleaning cake, mud cake removal will be more, because you are actually slurries passing through that particular point for that much of time. That is contact time. Okay. Again, say formation of the zone of interest, it passes. But if the zone of interest is the top, so you have to actually design other parameters. Contact time, say actually there should be minimum 5-minute contact time. But I think this is not nowadays, this theory is not used worldwide, and contact theory is now obsolete. So, but compatibility, mud parameters, flow regime, casing reciprocation, rotation, these are very important parameters. Now, weighting on cement, I have already covered. For resuming drilling, 500 psi, and perforations, it should be minimum 2000 psi. Class G cement, okay, accelerators, fluid loss additive, friction reducer, and little bit of deformer is also added. So these are additives, accelerators, retarders. Okay, then I already told yesterday in the calculations, in Class G cement, 44% water is required, maximum free water, and this is a compressive strength at 38 degrees centigrade 8 hours. These are actually API specifications, and ONGC also adopts uses the same. At 60 degrees, it should have minimum 1500 psi. Okay, whichever actually cement we are using, and the thickening time at 52 degrees centigrade and 5160 psi. Minimum should be this. When we procure cement, Class G cement, these parameters are put. So we actually, according to these parameters, this is what. There are so many other parameters like high sulfate resistance, I told you, C3A, compositions. Actually, there are four main compositions of this cement. So I have not actually gone into those details. Those are actually chemistry part of this. There is a tricalcium aluminate. Tricalcium aluminate is minimum 3%. Then tetracalcium aluminoferrite, then your dicalcium sulfate and tricalcium sulfate. These are 4 constituents, and each has actually different roles. All these compositions have different roles: early setting, final compressive strength. Because the cement, once set initial compressive strength, and then slowly it actually attains higher compressive strength. Okay. Now, any questions are there? So
sir,
far,
my
all
question
3 days.
is
All 3
regarding.
days. Yes. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. My question is regarding the weight on cement, and another question is on suppose we are pumping the cement when the
Okay.
cementing job. That time, suppose the cementing unit is fail, then what is the alternative is there?
Okay. Say, okay, it's a very nice question. See, the cement unit, normally, if you know, we can in onshore, we keep standby unit. Okay, you can connect because Y is connected, and you close the wall and the low torque wall, and then change it to another unit. You always should keep a standby unit. In offshore also, perhaps you may be aware, in offshore, minimum 2 pumps are available. If one pump goes down, then you can carry out the job with using only 1 pump. Only thing is, a discharge will be slightly less. And normally, because displacement is done with the mud pumps only, okay, displacement is not done only except in flood jobs where the capacity is very less and you need to pump only small quantity of water, maybe mud displacement fluid. Then we use cementing unit for displacement. Otherwise, for casing jobs, all displacement is done. So then suppose you have pumped some quantity and there is a breakdown. The operator or the cementing engineer should take this thing, decide how much time is elapsed and what time is left. Whether he can address the breakdown, it's a minor. If he is not able to address, then if he has pumped sufficient quantity of cement slurry and it is covering some part of the zones, then he has to decide where the cement rise will be, how much volume has been pumped. So based on that decision, he has to either go for displacement or wash. There is no other way. Try to complete the job because there are two pumps. That is why actually 2 pumps are this thing, standby pump. Even you can do high pressure mixing. You can pump water from using 1 reciprocating pump and pump slurry using this. And there is a wall in H manifold is there. You can close one wall and you can do like that. Okay. It may take making the arrangement maybe 10, 20, 15, 20 minutes. That is why when you design the cement slurry, we actually give the brake. 1 brake is necessary. When you drop the plug, even in the casing primary job, you have to stop. You have to change it to the pump line and then you drop the plug, you open the spindle and the plug goes down and then you change the line. It takes maybe 5 to 7 minutes. That time the slurry may come at the stationary, though it is moving because of U-tubing, but if there is U-tubing not sufficient, heavy mud is there and the slurry is not moving, it remains static. And if you have too many breakdowns, the thickening time reduces drastically. So when we are testing designing the cement slurry, we give at least 1 or 2 breaks, 15-minute, 20-minute breaks in the slurry and then check the thickening time. You got it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. It's now your doubt is clear?
One more question. Sir, one more question is on the weight on
WOC,
cement.
you wanted to ask about WOC something?
Yeah, WOC.
Yeah.
Sir, many times in previously when we were working, that time we are giving the WOC for the 6 hours or 12 hours or maybe for 1 full day. But nowadays they are not using WOC that much.
It is actually wastage of time. See what happens. Actually, you see, you need not disturb. If you keep waiting, it see normally what happens. The gas is there. Then mostly the transition time, as I have already mentioned, that during transition time also influx takes place. Okay, first of all, you have to see where is your zone, and it has been covered with the cement, and what is the probability of getting the influx from that zone. Okay, you have to observe it. Okay, you have to observe the well. So what you do normally in offshore, you are not transmitting the load. You keep this thing under suspension casing, and lot of works, preparatory works have to be done. Okay, so do not transmit the load onto the cement. Do not transmit at least for 8 hours, 10 hours. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
do not transmit the load of the cement, and the load of cement is also not 10. You, for while setting the slip in the, on the wellhead, we actually keep the free pipe above the, see if the cement is not covered up to the surface, the top of the cement, TOC, from there actually we keep this thing casing under tension, and below is only, that is the neutral point. That is the neutral point. And you can carry out the job, but only thing you have to be attentive. You need to monitor the endless. If any after this, maybe 8 or 10 hours, that is the most critical time when mostly the activities take place. You know, worldwide, most actually blowouts take place after cementation.
Okay. So we have to consider the thickening point in that case.
Yes. See, this, I tell you, it's a very wrong practice in most of the days. It's very, I tell you, wasting the time. If you are actually keeping the surface sample at the surface, okay, that is only for indicative purpose, because you are keeping that sample at the surface. Okay, yes. That it is not subjected to bottom hole temperature and pressure conditions. There will not be, when you are keeping in a container, steel container or a plastic bottle, there will not be any fluid loss. Okay, there is not, it's the slurry sample that will not be subjected to pressure. It will not be subjected to temperature. And temperature is the most critical. I'm telling you, if you are keeping at room temperature, it may not, for HPST well, the sample which is actually designed to set in 8 hours in the bottom hole conditions may not set at the surface for 2 days together, 3 days. Okay.
Yes, we are experiencing this in practical. Yes.
It is impractical. Okay, some people, they actually keep the slurry. They keep the slurry in this thing, some furnace. That is also okay. What happens, because it is not subjected to pressure? The water gets evaporated at that temperature. Suppose you keep at 70 degree in the normal furnace. Okay. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So actually the slurry which is designed for bottom hole condition, we know. We actually by recording UCA, we know what will be the compressive strength after 8 hours, 6 hours. You know, when actually casing is suspended, it is not subjected to any compressive strength. What is actually acting on the cement sheet is shear load. So for shear load, very small strength is developed, maybe after 6 to 8 hours, 10 hours, if that much strength is generated, only 30-40 psi is enough for shear load. Hello?
Yes, sir, I am listening. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so because see, when a load is actually transmitted on cement, the shear load is applied on the cement sheet to prevent the casing to fall down. So that shear load is very, very less. Very less. So even if actually when you attain a compressive strength of that much shear strength, that is why actually we do not even check for this thing, shear load. I actually forgot to mention few things. That is actually for hydrofrac areas. Actually nowadays we are measuring mechanical properties also of the cement. Young's modulus we measure. But why? Because this actually cement is sheet is subjected to many stresses. In later this instance, because so many times we are pressurizing the casing, depressurizing it. So actually we are calculating for the tensile load also now. Okay. Poison ratio is also mechanical properties. So the poison ratio should be high, and your Young's modulus should be low for good cement.
Okay, yes? Sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Whatever I have actually discussed for last 3 days, you can ask any question regarding the circulation, cementation, or any other practice. Yes, please.
Good evening, sir, while we are doing cementing, do we keep BOP or we remove it for adjusting cementing wellhead?
You are? Please repeat.
Hello, sir.
While
doing cementing, we remove BOP for adjusting wellhead, or BOP is still there?
No. BOP has to be there. Please, never imagine of this. Also, I already mentioned maximum blowouts take place after cementation. So never try to remove the BOP immediately after the job. Never do it. You know, Bugs and Well. Have you heard of Bugs and Well in Oil India?
Yes, sir. The 5
Here
months
they
back.
removed the
4 5
BOP
months
and they
back.
were not able to, and there was a flood and there was a loss of more than 2,000 crore.
Yes, sir.
So many, 6 months have elapsed. 6 months took to control the well, Baghjan well. See, this is, cementation is the most critical operation as far as well activity is concerned, and it is ignored. You pump it and then you forget it. No. Someone has to be at the wellhead. He should monitor the endless. If the level is going down, then also you need to take all precautions. Never shut it. Try to fill with the mud, active mud, at least active mud if you don't have the heavy mud. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So after during the displacement also, the loss may also occur, the activity may also occur. And that is why I have been mentioning all these 3 days that always we should maintain the pore pressure is a cement hydrostatic head, or the ECD should always be more than the pore pressure, and it should be less than the fracture gradient. That is a basic requirement.
Sir, there is one request. Can you share some problems practically happen in your duration?
I have faced number of problems. If I see for that, actually I need to have a separate session altogether, because yes, I have faced so many from preliminary, from the day of joining, so many, and I have handled. I am also well controlled trained engineer. Okay. So apart from cementing worldwide, if you say so, yes. Any other question?
Sir, can you share 1 or 2 problems? Can you share 1 or 2 problems?
This just now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Small problems.
Small problems. I'll explain one problem. Actually, it was a deep well, and a liner job was actually done, and the well condition was such that when we used to, even during circulation, when we were increasing the SPM by maybe 20-30 SPM, the loss used to take place. And when we actually reduced the SPM, there was activity. Mud weight, outcoming mud waste to a liner job. And there, first time in ONGC, we used Micromax cement in the Micromax, and the weight was also of the order of 2.2, 2.3 specific gravity. So that time when we displaced the cement, there was activity. And when we were pulling out, and it was actually rig operated by experts, I will not name the rig, but when they were pulling out, one stand pull out, because in liner, we actually have a plug, cement plug above the hanger top. So a 100-meter plug was designed. So when we were pulling out, so because of high temperature, we did not use a packer in that. Probably, according to me, we should have used nowadays expandable hanger in that. Expandable hanger should have been used, but we did not use expandable hanger, conventional hanger we used. So we removed because the temperature was high, and the rubber packing element is not designed for that temperature. Otherwise, if we run the packing element, it would swell at the temperature and your circulation will stop. So we actually removed the element, and what happened, the activity took place when we were pulling out, the flow was increasing. Had it been because of U-tubing, because cement slurry being heavier, normally we get reverse when we are pulling out after liner, after backing off, then actually little bit of cement slurry comes, but it reduces after pulling one stand, because less and less this thing, it goes down, level goes down. But it kept increasing. We pulled 2 stands, it was increasing. I said it is a kick. So actually the cement was inside, and then I actually really controlled this thing. I told everybody, now I'll take on, and I told how to control. And in reverse circulation, we controlled it, not direct circulation. So sometimes.
Okay. So it was happened just because of the YouTube phenomena, because the cement slurry.
No. YouTube. No. I'm telling you, it did not happen because of YouTube. That's a normal phenomenon, YouTube. But there was activity from this thing. When we shut the well, the pressure at the gauge in the endless was more than 2000 psi.
Okay.
So we actually did not bother. I wanted to save the well string and the well. So we kept pumping, and this actually slowly we pumped, pulled out, safe reverse circulation we did, because if I start doing direct circulation, the whatever remaining slurry will be there, that will stuck the pipe. If that gets set, okay. But if I'm doing reverse circulation, first of all, BOP is this thing closed and well is under control. And when I'm doing reverse circulation, slurry may come inside the drill pipe. So my actually string is safe. I may get the choke string, but I can save the wells. That is why I did.
Okay.
Reverse circulation. Yeah.
That was a nice experience with
you. Actually, I have so many cases actually, right? Not say. And I have said, see, once what happened, I was in Assam. We were carrying out a plug job for sidetrack. Okay. I mixed the slurry at the room temperature itself. Sometimes actually these retarders that we use behave erratically. That is why I'm telling you these retarders are very important. You have to do dose sensitivity, everything. So when we mixed the slurry, I pumped it, I could not displace. Within 15 minutes, when the slurry was not even exposed to high temperature and pressure, at surface it got. I got really disturbed something. What happened? We removed the pipes. Pipes were choked, but after removing 5 stands, we could establish circulation. We conducted the test at the laboratory. Extensive testing was done. So we found that actually retarder was very behaving erratically. So by little change, because at macro level, when you are adding bags, sometimes actually you cannot be so precise. Suppose I need to add 0.2%, it may become macro level water and all that. It may be 2%. So it was behaving, it was old, little old. So it got actually set. But we did not lose anything. Only thing we had to repeat the job. Yes. Flash setting I have not covered. Flash setting and the fall setting. Fall setting is the one when actually the cement becomes gel mud. But when you initiate the pressure, you slightly apply higher pressure, it gets break and you establish the circle. That is called fall setting. You can refer, literatures are available. Okay. You study Nielsen book. One Nielsen is writer is there, Schlumberger. It's a very popular book, or it is very, very comprehensive book on cementing. And there are many other aspects, because in such short time, 3 days, I cannot cover all the aspects. Very high temperature, thermal wells, when we are not actually only even silicon.
What was that author's name?
Yeah.
No, you have just now cited a book. No, means that book name.
Nielsen.
I have just cited a book's name, right?
It is available. It is actually available in bookshelves also. Nielsen. You can get a soft copy also at a price. You will get maybe a few dollars. It is. You can get in the library. It is available. Don't you see? It is. Okay.
Okay.
One Halliburton book is Smith, written by very old book. Very small book is there. Smith, written by Halliburton. Smith. That is also good book. But nowadays, because of this is Google time, digital time, you can get a lot of information on cementing. Even case studies you can get. So you can study those case studies, and whatever observations you can just write me a mail.
Sir,
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, actually, once the cementing is done and before it hardens, how it is hanging from the surface, or whether by slips or it is hanging,
See,
or
normal,
with the help of
you can see slips means 2 slips. One slip is at the wellhead slip. Okay, that is the final hanging. When you cut the casing, hang with this. Okay, slip is put and then you cut this casing, and according to the seal length. Okay, one 3x4 inches or whatever is this thing. Okay, design of the seal design. So that is one hanging. That is the final hanging. Another is actually you can put it on elevators. You can put it on elevators. The double, ONGC, All India regular practice. You put it on 2 elevators and rest it there. And the wall, casing wall should be slow. If it is a primary cementation, casing wall should be closed. And if it is a secondary cementation and we are applying pressure, this thing, say squeeze job is done, then we have to keep under pressure for 4 to 6 hours till thickening time. Another thing I just forgot to mention, in endless to prevent gas, this thing you can apply. This actually results in good bond also. It helps in endless you can apply in stages. Slowly you have to apply, but you should not exceed the LOT value of the previous casing show. So limited to the LOT value of the previous casing shoe, you apply in stages pressure 50 psi, then check it, anything happening, you are losing, the pressure is dropping. If there's no drop, after 5 minutes, again apply 50 psi extra. So you can apply 500, 600 psi within permissible limit of the previous casing shoe. That much pressure, back pressure should be applied for 4 to 6 hours. Okay.
Sir, normally it is hanging in slips, sir. Normally, in conventional cases.
Conventional casing hangs in the slip, not on the wellhead. You have not seen the design, how it is actually casing is hanging. Wellhead, it is on the wellhead, it actually hangs. So the free pipe above the cement top is actually kept under tension. Load is not transmitted to the cement. The neutral point is top of the cement. Top of the cement is neutral point.
Okay, sir.
Buoyancy, because of buoyancy, what like I can explain you, because I am here not to explain you casing designs and all. Because of buoyancy, the lower portion of the casing will be under compression. Will it not be?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It will be under compression. And at the shoe, the load is 0. And it is under compression because of buoyancy. So now the neutral point will come where actually then again it will be in tension. That's the neutral point should be kept while even setting the slips on the wellhead. The neutral point should be the top of the cement. So that much load of the casing has to be set on the slips.
Yes, sir. I got it, sir.
Got
Sir,
it?
one more. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, the thing is in braid and head squeeze actually.
Yes.
So after a quantity of cement is pumped, so
Okay.
above that cement quantity, which fluid they'll try to fill and apply pressure, sir? Pressure.
See, it has to be active fluid. What is actually on top? You will be using pre-flush, after flush, and the cement slurry. You will come out of the plug, safe distance, maybe 50 to 100 meter above. Okay, then you reverse wash or direct wash. There are advantages and disadvantages in both the cases. I have already explained. This now after washing the string, you close BOP and carry out the squeeze with the running mud, which is on the top portion, which is the mud, running mud. Same fluid used.
So if we apply pressure, is there any possibility that because of higher pressure, this mud might displace the cement below?
No, not at all. What are you telling? What are you telling?
If the pressure gets increased,
No,
is there any possibility?
See, when you apply pressure, okay, you know Pascal law. The pressure is applied to the entire casing. If you are not doing squeeze using a packer, retainer, cement retainer. If you are using this, then only tubing is pressurized. But in normal conventional braided method, as you mentioned, the entire casing is pressurized. So how the fluid on the top will go down? Can it travel? Only by gravity. Suppose top fluid is heavier than this thing, it also travels very slowly. You got it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pressure is transmitted through the fluid. Pressure will be transmitted. But just in case, imagine you have not cleared this cement properly, and there is gel cement somewhere, maybe contaminated mud and cement. So if the gel strength of that contaminated cement is there, and that will prevent the transfer of, and the gelation is much more, then it will prevent the transfer of pressure to the squeezing point, to the perforations or to the damage where the point where you want to carry out the squeeze. Got it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got it.
Okay, so but if the gel strength, okay, in this case should be low of the mud. If it has a very, very high gel strength, then the pressure will not actually be transmitted to the bottom. And our purpose of carrying out squeeze will be defeated. Yes? More questions, please? Please ask, please ask. Today I actually completed in less time. I did not take that much of time, but participants are less today. Yes, please raise questions. No problem. However, you may feel it may be a silly question, but I'll try to reply, address. At least I can understand how much you have understood what I have explained in all 3 days. I have idea.
Sir, still I couldn't able to get clear picture because actually,
Please, don't hesitate. Don't speak up. Speak up. Yes.
the thing is, sir, so if we give give pressure to a fluid in an increment, actually, there is a possibility that it might displace the fluid that is below. So
No.
and it might come in sideways.
See, unless there is a circulation. See, please understand. You can carry out experiment yourself with the tube and blow this thing out, or with the pump you can do it. But see, had it been possible without circulation, if the circulation is taking place, then only that top fluid that you are pumping, that will come down. Please understand. Okay. This actually never travels, even if slightly on top push. Suppose in the middle, suppose there is a mud. I give an example. So suppose I want to carry out a squeeze job or the plug job at a depth of 2500, whereas a well depth is 3000 meter. So 500 meter below where the plug depth, there is mud, isn't it? There is mud. And I have kept the open and drill pipe at 2500 because I need to carry out the plug job at that depth, 2500, not 3000 meter. So 500 meter is the mud, filled with mud. And I am pumping the cement slurry, placing at 2500. So still it does not go down. See, this in the drill pipe and in the casing, when you are placed the cement slurry, because of if the differences or the densities are too much, it will try to settling. As I have already this thing demonstrated, settling is negligible. We design the slurry so that there is no settling. No? And this mud also has some gel strength, and this it will not pass through. It is not actually, see, it is not, we are not dropping any solid in the water or mud. Liquids are there because of solids in the liquid. It will settle slightly, but by the time the gel strength of the cement slurry and it will become thick. Maybe it will cover 1 meter, 2 meters. See, yesterday I showed you cases where actually we keep some maybe 3 meters, 5 meters, so that shoe is not blocked. We keep this shoe 5 meters above the bottom. I told her yesterday.
Yes, sir.
So we keep 5 meters of bottom shoe. Okay. When we carry out the cementation job, okay, this slurry passes through the shoe and it comes up, and the density of the cement slurry is more than that of mud, which is lying below in the 5 meter rat hole. And when we actually go with the bit, you find a free fall, 2-3 meters. Little bit of maybe 1-2 meter cement goes down. Had it been the case, we should have found this thing always at the bottom. In that case, you will never be able to place the plug by Braden method. Will be able to place? No. Suppose the well is 5000 meter depth and I want to place the cement plug at 500 meter. I place very well. Place it, test it, tag it. Okay, that way it will always be a failure. If I go by your hypothesis, it will always be a failure. So it doesn't happen. Yes. Any more questions? Please.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, is there any difference in the cementing practice of a wildcat well, a pressure well, from a normal producing well, or it's the same process?
See, as far as cementation is concerned, it is a same process. In wildcat well also, drilling. Okay, you may not know for certainly this actually, but cementation is done after recording the logs. So we know. So by checking the porosity, resistivity, we know what formation is there, permeable formations are there. We may not know the exact data because cementation is done after drilling the hole, or the secondary cementation is done once the well is actually completed, or in between some repair job is done. So we know where the problem is. So as far as cementation is concerned, there is no difference. Only thing, maybe logging is done, or the volume, of course, we can actually exactly by recording caliper log, but the temperature is always a concern. The temperature. Okay, if the temperature is not recorded properly, we can actually run the thermal log also before this. Okay.
Okay, sir.
No difference as far as cementation is. Only thing we need to take more precautions in development well. We know the area, we know the formations, so many wells have been drilled. So we can be complacent, bit complacent, whereas we should not be. We should not be.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Yes. Any other question? Please ask one after another. Yes. Any question? Has anybody written anything? Please email, phone number. I think it's not proper to provide email, phone number. Yeah. You can route your questions through this only, through Jayant or through these fellows. Please, any other question or shall we conclude? Ask questions. Still 22 participants are there. Slowly they are leaving. Yes? Jayant? Shall we call it today? Yes, any other question? Any question?
No, sir.
Huh? Any other question? Any doubt? Any doubt? Anything you want to ask? Anything about drilling, about this thing? Any doubt? You're free. On well control or anything you want to ask? Any question? Safety, HSE or anything? I'll try to reply. Offshore. Yes? No, it's okay. Jayant, shall we call it today? You can stop.
Yes, sir. We can call it today.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, participants. Thank you very much, sir, for all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.